Hello, welcome to the participants from the Netherlands and Indonesia. Welcome to our speakers today, Mrs. Sundari, Acting Director of Management for Research Permits and Innovation and Scientific Authorities at BRIN, and Mr. Widipaminto, Acting Director of Repositories, Multimedia and Scientific Publishing at BRIN. Thank you all for taking part in this session today on policies and regulation for foreign researchers on research in Indonesia. My name is Yvonne Klerks and I'm the Education and Science Attaché at the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands in Jakarta, Indonesia. I'm a representative of the Ministry of Education, Culture and Science in the Netherlands. There's a long-standing relationship between Indonesia and the Netherlands on education and research, with many partnerships between our institutes. The Netherlands fosters this fruitful collaboration between our two countries. Therefore, we think it's important that researchers are well informed, and today we host a session with the aim to inform researchers from the Netherlands who are involved in research collaboration in Indonesia about the rules and regulations that are in place in Indonesia at the moment, issued by BRIN. BRIN is a national research and innovation agency from Indonesia, and BRIN is responsible for the clearance of all research permitting in Indonesia. And as new opportunities for institutional and individual research collaboration arise, so do questions about the process by which foreign and domestic researchers alike are to obtain government permissions for conducting research in Indonesia. I'm very grateful that these two distinguished speakers from BRIN are with us today to discuss the landscape of research for foreign researchers in Indonesia. This session is an initiative of the NL Knowledge House in Indonesia and the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands in Indonesia. We see this as a first step in informing the Dutch knowledge sector about research policies and regulations in Indonesia. The session will be recorded and questions and answers will be provided on paper afterwards. Furthermore, relevant documentation from BRIN will be shared with you. So I'm very grateful that Mrs. Sundari and Mr. Widipaminto are taking the time to be with us today to inform us and to answer questions you might have. The session consists of two parts. The first part focuses on the National Scientific Repository, and the second part on the ethical clearance and research permits. Each topic takes about 45 minutes. Before we start with the first topic, please allow me to share some practical information. The invited speaker will first introduce the rules and regulations that are in place. After that, I will ask the speakers questions to clarify on the topic, and the topic will be concluded with a Q&A with the audience, with you. Questions may be typed in the chat, but there's also room for people to ask questions orally. In case you are interested to ask a question orally, please raise your virtual hand. And then you will receive the button Join as a Panelist. After joining as a panelist, you're able to ask your question orally. It would be wonderful if you could share your name, position, and institution before you ask your question. Priority will be given to questions that are asked orally, but questions in the chat will be answered in the session as well if there's time left. Questions that are not answered during this session will be answered on paper afterwards. Now, over to part one, the National Scientific Repository. There is a mandatory repository in place in Indonesia, which requires depository of primary data and research output. Mr. Widipaminto will explain more about this. Mr. Widipaminto, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Let me start my screen. Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It is great for us especially, to explain and discuss about the National Scientific Repository. My name is Ayom Widipaminto. I'm acting director of repositories, multimedia, and scientific publishing from BRIN. My director is under the deputy chairman of facilitating research and innovation that have a role to give the facilitating. So my directorate is give the services or facilitating for the data or also for the repository. This is the regulation background of the, we call it in Indonesia, wajib serah, wajib simpan, or we call mandatory deposit. That is obligation for data owners. Who is data owner? There is a consists of 3 entities. There's funder, science, technology, human resources or researchers, and also the research science technology institution. What will be deposited to the repository is the primary data and research output. So every research activity in Indonesia or funded by the government of Indonesia is have to have a mandatory deposit to the repository that result the primary data and research output. And under our law number 11 2019 article 40, there is should be have a government regulation. It's ongoing process. But to fill the emptiness of the regulation, BRIN already have a regulation number 18 2022 that is still in the process of amendment, but it is the scope of the regulation number 18 2022 is scope of the internal BRIN and also have the collaboration of cooperation with BRIN. We will expand the scope, which is national scope, also state from the law number 11 2019 article 40, and also have a more detailed regulation for the data, so for the security, our guarantee security and utilizations. We have also forum to convince the user. We have committed to serve the preserving primary data and the support output for long time. And we related with the regulation, also we have a regulation, it is more detailed, will be explained by the Putri, BRIN regulation number 22 2022 about the research ethic clearance. So every foreign researchers who will do research in Indonesia and have a primary data, it should be sent or saved or mandatory deposit to the repository. This is the 3 entities of the data owner. You know that funder have ensuring the monitoring and evaluation the result of the funding. So they need to make sure the data is already stored in the repository. And the research institution is also provide the infrastructure is related with BRIN. So we providing RIN to serve all data owner to store the primary data and research output. And the science and technology human resources of the researchers is conducting the primary data based on the law number 11 2019 and also BRIN regulation number 18 2022, and also ensuring data access and data license. This is the scope. So we do focus on the research data and open data, but in the scope of the security data, which will be not in scope. So based on the law number 11, we have 2 systems of repository. We call it the repo karya.brin.go.id for the research output. This is use the BRIN platform. It contains the publications, research output, including books, research report, grey literature, and also scientific publication. We use since 2022 since BRIN. And for the data, we have a data.brin.go.id. This we use the Harvard platform, EQSS Harvard University platform, and contain the raw data produced by the research activity in the various file formats. This is legacy from the previous LP, and we continue use this platform for mandatory deposit primary data. The content policy, we have several data types that accommodated by the platform, from node, graph, table maps, transcript codes, visual recording. We can support all data type, and also several data format, on statistic, non-statistic. We support for the raw data, and we have no quota limitation. The arrangement of the upload file will be arranged for each 18 gigabyte per file. When it's more than 18 gigabyte file, we can manage by some special link that also can manage data into the repository. We also support the status data during reset on post reset, and we can also upload the secondary data as long as following the source data lesson and data resource acknowledgement. This is the diagram that we saw. We deal with all researchers or all data owner and nationally. We also related with ministries, because some ministries also still manage related with primary data. For example, the health ministries, the agriculture ministries, also with industry, because some industry have a special survey data that also related with the primary data. Also within universities, because universities still do the research, and we give we call it the state services for mandatory deposit. And we also serve the internal BRIN from all research organizations and research centers. We also serve for the foreign researcher for the repository. We support by the data information center from BRIN and also all laboratories. And the strategies to collect massive primary data, of course, we do the collaboration between industries, universities, and we do integration with the various system, example via API. And we also have collaboration with the various professional organizations to help introducing our repository. And we try to prepare our system as interoperability with other systems. We hope in the midterm or long term, our repository can support all the research permits and funding, and also all for the publication. And the last is we also prepare for the historical data or all data. We do the imaging and digitalization of the primary data, and all primary data should be managed in, we call it the RIN, Repository Ilmiah Nasional, as a national scientific repository. The legal aspect in RIN, the key aspect is the decision access level is all defined by data owner. So BRIN system or BRIN repository only facilitate the storage out of the platform, but the level access to data should be defined by the data owner. Data owner should know about the detail of the data, and should be also define the license of the data, and also if data owner decide to close all access data, it should be closed. And we also have a sensitive data handling, the assessment of data hand it over to the data owner, of course. And if needed, data owner can also request the curator from BRIN to assess the clearance or the ethic of the data. And data can be considered sensitive because it's related by, first is for national defense, security, just Indonesia's natural diversity, such as locations, endangered species, location of mineral, gas natural, etc. Data that can refer a person identity is very related with the ethics area. Data relating to the personal conditions, such as the person health record, must be anonymized, and data on state relation with the other countries. So all we consider sensitive should be closed. So we also manage the data security in our repository. We have a data file can be restricted by locking its file or digital object. And this is an account access limited. The special access will be built if data owner request. So our repository also provide the guestbook feature that when the data is closed and some potential user try to access, they will fill the guestbook and can manage by permit by data owner will be open the primary data. For data reuse purpose, RIN use the recommended Creative Commons license. We also manage the backup data every 24 hours. BRIN also provide the disaster recovery. We have 3 locations, and its digital object automatically encrypted, and it's generally the persistent identifier. We use the handle. Our repository recommend use the Creative Commons license. Recommended license is issued by NCSA. Of course, this is defined all by the data owner because the power or the decision is from the data owner. I think that is my presentation. For the closing. Mandatory. Our repository is state services for the mandatory deposit. So we invite you all, especially the researcher who do the research in Indonesia or collaborate with the Indonesia government to accomplish the role of the obligation for the mandatory deposit. Use our repository. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Widipaminto, for giving this explanation on the National Scientific Repository. If I may ask you a question about it, maybe to start with your last slide, you recommend one of the licenses as Creative Commons license. Why do you actually recommend this specific license?
Yeah. Of course, first point. The first is we encourage data owner to open the data, because when the open data should be make reproducibility. The research is more easy, and our research must become open. That's why we recommend the open source license, and we use the Creative Commons license because it's very common and open, can serve the 3 access: the open and moderate and also closed access. That's why we use or recommend the Creative Commons license.
Okay, thank you. And I have other question about the storage of the data. You just gave some examples of storing the primary data. You also talk about secondary data. And I was wondering, is storage of secondary data also mandatory, or is only storage of primary data mandatory?
No, the secondary data is no mandatory. The mandatory should be the primary data. When they need the secondary data, so our platform or our repository can support this request. But for the mandatory deposit, it should be focused on primary data.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And you also mentioned that the researcher itself has access to the data. For how long is this? I mean, is this forever that
Yes.
the researcher can put the lock there, or how does it work?
Yeah. In the law number 11/2019, they state that the minimum period for the retention period is 20 years period. But in our system, there is no retention time. So we minimum have 20 years old by the law, but we design the system for long lifetime.
Okay, so once the data is stored, it will stay in the repository. Is it possible for the researcher also to delete the data, or once it's there, it will stay there?
Yes, also depend on the data owner, as I said. As long as data owners have decision to delete in the repository, we can delete the data. For example, the business process is we prepare the storage, and data owner use the storage. And if there's something happen, for example, the active problem or obstruction justice problem, or is not have a what do you call it? It should be we can recall the data, and for the moment the repository have a policy to close temporarily for solve the problem if it happen. Should we have a ethic problem or justice or law problem, something like that.
Okay, okay, thank you. Also about the primary data, the primary data that might have sensitive information that, yeah, ethically you think it should not be shared or made public. So how can you protect primary data with sensitive information?
Yeah, okay. So if we refer to our law number 11, the spirit is the earth, water, and natural resource of Indonesia should be protected for the benefit of Indonesia. That's why we will preserve data for the long time. When the data is related with ethic regulation, it should be closed, of course, by decision by the data owner. That's why the role of data owner is very important to define this is the open or closed data. We only passive platform to it's depend on you from the data owner. And for the security, like in the presentation, we also have encryption. We have also lawful access, and as I mentioned, we use I think the proven platform for the repository. We use the Harvard system. I think it's also safe for lawful access of the data. And we also have encryption. We have a DRC, and also we have a regular backup to guarantee or convince the user this data is safe for the long retention period.
Okay, thank you. And can you also anonymize data that you upload in the data repository?
Yes, of course. If it is related with the person identity, personal condition, this must be anonymized.
Okay, good to know. Thank you very much. That's all about primary data and storing the primary data, but you also mentioned that research output, there's also a repository for research output. And what exactly needs to be stored there? Can you give some examples?
Okay. By definition, research output is defined as the scientific paper publications, research IP, intellectual property, grey literature, blueprint prototype, and the report document. But in our amendment regulation, we will make a coordination between agency, because if you talk about the archive data, it should be Arsip Nasional, UNRI. We should also coordinate it with other agency. But the priority is we save the primary data, and for the research output, because there's many platforms that made it for the research output. We have a publication, we have a IP, we have a report, and then it will connect to the other platform from the other agency to coordinate based on the national regulation. For example, we have a report, archiving report should be after 20 years should be sent to the UNRI, for example, or some report or some collection should be sent also to the Pusnas, something like that.
Okay, thank you on the clarification on that. I would also like to give the audience some time to ask questions. Looking at my colleagues, or anybody raising hands? There are some questions in the chat. I have a question asked: does archival materials count as primary data? Should that also be deposited even though it is already part of an institution database in Indonesia?
Okay. Yes, because we call it as like a backup services, even though they store in their own system, for example, the universities or other agency, but the mandatory deposit, because it's obligation of is have to from the data owner, should be also saved to our repository. Then the mission accomplished. In the law, also there is like the administrative sanction if data owner do not do the mandatory deposit. It's still draft, of course. We still build the regulation. When the data owner do not have mandatory deposit, we will not give the facilitation research of innovation from BRIN, because as a funding agency, as give the biggest research institution in Indonesia should be have all the facilitating of research innovation. That's why we encourage all the data owner use this as a backup service. When you have your own system, you can save on your system, but when that should also save to the repository. But if you do not have your own system, it's good. You can use our repository. We can help you to preserve your data for the long time period.
Okay, thank you very much for answering this question. I have another question from Sikko Visser from KI TLV Leiden. Do raw anthropological fieldworks notes fall under this policy? For those, how is co-ownership of the informant organized?
Sorry, can you repeat again the question?
Yes, of course. Do raw anthropological fieldwork notes fall under this policy? For those, how is co-ownership of the informant organized?
Okay. So in the definition of data primary, we still amend the definition. It's also digital, physical, and also the live, we call it live specimens primary data. So related to anthropological field, this will be artifacts and like this will be a data primary, it's physical. Then what happens if we have difficulties for save or deposit as a physical? We try to have a special link or special metadata catalog to manage or we manage the primary data that remote or still managed by the other agency or other institution. For example, we will work with museum, for example, that have several artifacts. Then artifacts will be have a digitalization for the long term, but in the short term we have to also make sure our repository can handle the metadata or the catalog that can like say, yes, we know about, we have a primary data store and our partners. Did that answer the question or no?
Yes, Mr. Siko Visser, you have any additional questions? Okay, otherwise you come in later in the session. Thank you. Another question asked by Jasper Heerkens. I may have missed it, but when is a researcher or institute required to submit all the data to the repository? Is it when the project is financed by Indonesian governmental funding?
Okay, yeah. So the requirement for the mandatory deposit is two conditions. One is when the research is due in Indonesia or related with the object in Indonesia, and or when the funding by the government of Republic Indonesia. This Article 40.6 state like that. And when should we store or save the data into the repository? So after the research finished, and of course also have a primary data analysis output should be saved to our repository. So that's the two conditions for the when should be saved to our repository when the research is finished. Then when the research is result of the primary data and also the research output.
Okay, thank you. I see a hand raised by Mr. Rien van Dam. Mr. Rien van Dam, may I invite you to ask your question? Or I can also read it. In this repository system, are there functions that assist researchers to find data already stored and or let research cooperate?
Okay. We use the data first system from the Harvard. Of course, there is a searching feature to search that what data and what subject that already stored in the data first is related with the name of the data owners, and data set is related with the project name, and data files is related with the title of the data itself. We can search for that, but when the user requests or have a potential to collaborate research activity to use the data in the repository, when the data open, they can also access directly and use directly. But when the data is closed, we have like a guest book feature. The user should be filled in the list. Then the data owner can contact the potential user, and have communication and do the collaboration. That's why for the future we propose our repository not yet only connected data, also connected the people or connected the researcher to do the research collaboration, use the data or primary data in the repository.
Okay, thank you very much. One more question here. Is it possible for BRIN to delete data if it is sensitive or violates the ethics and the data owner choose not to delete?
We have a policy, we call it the recall data, that when decided by the law or by the regulation, we can do that. But if not, we cannot do that because it's the set is all depend on the data owner. But something happened, for example, is related with law or with security, defense, something like that, and will be have a special high level decisions. It should be ordered to BRIN or our repository to delete it. It can be, but should be from the what do you call it, pengadilan, something like that, to decide that level.
Okay, so thank you. So not decided on BRIN level, but on other level.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Another question. It's a lengthy one, so I will read it. It's great that BRIN offers these facilities, and data management is of course very important. I strongly believe in sharing information between scholars, including data. However, I am concerned that also security services, army or the police, would access my data. For example, if I do research on corruption, I would be afraid that my transcripts can be checked by persons who are guilty of corruption. There are also other sensitive topics. I would not trust my own government, Dutch government, with such data either, or any other government. What guarantee do we have that it is impossible for the state to check our primary data?
Okay. Of course, by the law, by our regulation, is a guarantee that is depend on the data owner to close the data. But when court or pengadilan state that open, for example, to a special case, we have to order the court's order. That's why if there is a special high level or not high level, yeah, what do you call it, pengadilan, keputusan pengadilan, it's that possible to open for the special purpose. But in our law, in our regulation, is that it's all depend on the data owner. Yes, court mandate. Thank you, Pak Vidi.
Yes, thank you. I can imagine that this is something that keeps researchers busy, specifically what is mentioned, if you do research on sensitive topics.
Yes, yes.
That this might be a worry of researchers.
Yeah, I think we in BRIN also there is some research area also related with that, but still because it's the scientific community, right? There is, I think, still have an independent for that, especially for the data we protect. Because we use the Harvard system, I think it's already affordable or already good for protect the level of the access, and also by our law. But if I think this is still have developing for the amendment of our regulation. If there is a court mandate state that should be open data, we use open the data as a what you call support the process in the court.
Okay, thank you very much for the explanation. I have one final question, and then we will switch to the second topic of this meeting. And that's a question that was asked before by Mr. Sikko Visser, and he's now clarifying on his question. He said this was about anthropology. He said, I'm talking about fieldwork written notes. They are highly personal and almost impossible to be anonymized. The informant is seen in anthropology as the co-owner and co-creator of this raw data. So that's why he asked the question. So if these informants are co-owner, how should you organize then the data repository?
Yeah. In the law state that the data owners consists of three, the funder, the institution, also the researcher. When is have a co-owner, so I think the owner have decide who will store or save the data. And of course, if the format data is cannot be anonymized, but by system, you can still close the data by yourself. Even the people, the technical team who manage the repository cannot access or open the data. This all depend on yours. And I think no worries because we use proven platform as the Harvard use. We can guarantee for that.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Widipaminto, for all the information and sharing the questions and answers. I'm sure we will be in touch later on. If there are more questions from people, then I hope I will be able to reach out to you as well.
Yeah, I'm very happy to discuss with you all, and if you need it, I can give the number or the email, and you can contact me to further discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Continue with the second part of this session about ethical clearance and research permits. So research activities in Indonesia must be carried out in accordance with the code of ethics, of which its reinforcement is conducted by Ethics Commission. Furthermore, foreign research institutes and/or foreign researchers must obtain permission from central government for doing research in Indonesia. I'm very pleased that Mr. Sundari took the time today to be here with us and explain about ethical clearance and research permits. Mrs. Sundari, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Yvonne. Good afternoon, everyone, all the participants of today's knowledge sessions. I'm Sundari, and I'm very delighted to have this opportunity to share the informations regarding the regulations as well as the procedure of the research permit in Indonesia. Allow me to share the screen of my presentations. Okay, I think it's already up. Okay, right. Yeah, the first one, I will talk about the ethical clearance and the research permit. And I always start my presentation with a legal framework because this is actually the basis why we do this kind of a services of the research permit in Indonesia. So the first one is the law. It's the number 11 that was issued in 2019. It's about the national systems of science and technology. Within this law, particularly on the Article 39, it's already highlighted by Ms. Yvonne that All the research activities in Indonesia must be carried out with the code of ethics, and we have the ethics commissions who will, conduct the review of the research. And I think this is common things in the scientific communities across the globe. And the second articles, in Article 75, it's basically Indonesian government of Indonesia is very welcome and open to have collaborations between the researchers from Indonesia and foreign researchers from other countries. And of course, before they are conducting research in Indonesia, they need to have research permit, where BRIN is the entry gate to have that kind of permit. So this is in this article, the key is foreign research institute and or foreign researchers. So based on this article, actually, the one who need a research permit in Indonesia consists of the individual foreign researchers who will conduct research in Indonesia, or they do not come to Indonesia, but then their counterpart in Indonesia will do the field work and they got access to the data. Then they also need a research permit. And it also applied for the Indonesians nationality that work in the foreign research institutes. So they also need the research permit. And the second legal framework is our BRIN regulation that was issued last year. It's basically about the procedure on we are doing the research ethical clearance, including how the foreign researchers getting the research permit through the ethical clearance. This is just the comparisons before and after the law was issued. In the previous one, the proposal, the reviewers not only saw the scientific aspect, but also other aspects, including the security ones. But now we only see the scientific base based on the ethical clearance, and we have the ethics commission or ethics committee who conduct the review to the proposal. And there is also a privilege given by Indonesian Ministry of Finance to those foreign researchers who have collaborations with the researchers from BRIN. We can waive for the fee of getting the research permit. And this is our website. We already, all the services are based on the online base, so all are digital. You can access, you do the applications anywhere, anytime. You just go to this website, clearanceethic.brin.co.id. And in this second versions, it's already bilingual. So for the foreign researchers, you can directly make your applications here. And first of all, you need to have our single sign-on from BRIN. If you don't have it yet, you can register first to have your username and also the password. And this is the ethics committees that we have currently in BRIN. We have 5 ethics committees. We have social humanities. We have chemistry, care and use of animals. So it's basically it's not only for you who you do a research in the laboratory that using the animals in your research, but it's also applied to the research that you are only there is no direct treatment to the animals. So that's why we changed the name of the committee. And then we have ethics committee on nuclear and also health. So outside of these 5, we have one field. Actually, it's for a field that not covered in the 5 fields. So we do understand that not all of the research activities need ethical clearance. Usually, the ones that do not involve humans, do not involve the animal, whether it's direct or indirect. So for the Indonesian researchers, you can have we have a system that if your research will nothing to do with the animals nor the human, you will not need the ethical clearance. But for you, for the foreign researchers or the Indonesian who work in the foreign institute, if your research will not apply in one of these 5 fields, then you still need a permit. So that's why we have the others box to cover this kind of field of the research. And this is the general business process of how you are getting the ethical clearance or research permit through ethical clearance. So it's basically one continuous process. So you submit your permit through the ethical clearance website. So once you have the single sign-on that I already mentioned in the previous slide, you just go to our website, clearanceethic.brin.co.id, and you log in and you do the self-assessment. The self-assessment is basically a set of questions. It is a closed questions that will help you to identify whether your research activities need ethical clearance or not. But for the foreign researchers, of course, you still need a permit. So that's why you need to go through this process. So after you finish with the self-assessment, then you go to the field based on the result, and then you upload the required documents. I will explain later on what document you need to prepare. And after that, our secretariat will see whether it's already complete or not, and then they will send them to the ethics committee to review the proposals. So once it is approved, they will issue the letter of approval regarding this activity. So the ethical clearance is only once for one research activities, but for the research permit will be given to one person one letter of research permit based on the ethical clearance. So once letter of approval from the ethics committee is approved, then we will verify the blacklist and you do the payment, and we can issue the a letter of research permit. It's the general business process. If you're asking how long to the process, if everything goes smooth, all the document complete, it's normally will take around 20 working days from applying until we issued the research permit. In general, the ethics committee will have a meeting every 2 weeks, so twice in a month. They will do to review the proposal. And this is the required document. Of course, we need your proposal of the research. This is the template that we ask. So you need to fulfill all this outline, and other document that required by ethics commissions, because each ethics commissions they ask for different documents. So just go through in each of the field. And In addition to that, we also need immigration's document like a passport. But if I'm not mistaken, the new regulations only asking for a minimum of 6 months, if I'm not mistaken. But we need to better check on that. And also document of cooperations, guarantee letter from your Indonesian partner, and also the material transfer agreement if it is needed. I mean, if there is a material, we'll send to outside of the countries. And yeah, that's normally the procedures of ethical clearance and as a prerequisite for getting the research permit in Indonesia. But in this opportunity, I also would like to remind all of you that the permit is not only from BRIN, so BRIN is only for the entry gate. There is also other research permit in other ministries, but it also depends on the topic of your research. For example, the first one is a visa. Of course, if you come to Indonesia, you will need a visa. And for the stay permit or ITAS, actually we receive informations and new informations from colleagues from our colleagues in the immigration office that they already issued the new regulation per minister regulations this year regarding the visa and the stay permit. So in the past, it's a different one, right? You need a visa and also you need a limited stay permit. But based on this new regulation, the stay permit will be one bundle with the visa. So once you receive the visa, you can come to Indonesia and you don't need again to have the limited visa because it's already in embedded there. But these regulations will be effective 2 months after it was issued in August, so August, September, October. So will be effective in this October. And you need a travel letter from the police. Unfortunately, you still have to come in person. You or your Indonesian counterpart can help you to have this kind of letter. But if your research location is not in area of Jakarta, you can have this letter in the police office in that provincial level. And also the letter of research notification from the Ministry of Home Affairs is already online based, so you can have it very simple. And this is only if your research will be in the area of conservation or related to the genetic resources in Indonesia. So you need a permit from the Ministry of Environment and Forestry. And this one, if your research will use the research vessel or some aerial aircraft, including air balloons or drone, you need security clearance and accompanied by a security officer from the Ministry of Defense. And last one is permit from a Ministry of Transportations if you research using drone or aircraft because they need license for the pilot and the locations and the time when your drone or aircraft you will use that in a certain time in a certain place because they have to make sure that it is secure and not interrupt the navigations, commercial navigation. And last topic, I just give you the statistic of how many letter of permit that we already issued in this first semester. Total, I think it's almost 600. And for your information, the number is, I think, almost double what we had in last year. So last year we issued around 380 something. But now, only in one semester, we already issued almost 600. So there is an increasing number of research permit that we already issued. And these are the top 10 countries of the foreign researchers. The first is US, Australia, UK, the Netherlands is in the 5th rank with a total of 52. And these are the top 10 of the research field. Mostly we have strong collaboration in zoology, archaeology, and some in geology and social sciences. And these are the top 10 of the research location, mostly in Java, Western Java, Jakarta, and Eastern, and some part of Sulawesi, Kalimantan, and Bali. And this is the top 10 of the Indonesian counterpart. The first place, BRIN, yeah, because you know that all of the research institution already integrated in BRIN, and then followed with the Indonesian universities, higher educations. Yeah, this is my last slide. So if you have questions, please just drop your message to this email address, and I also put the link of the foreign research permit guideline if you need more detailed information. So I stop here. I thank you very much and give back to Yvonne.
Yes, thank you so much, Ms. Sundari, for this introduction into these two important topics. For the researchers, I have a few questions for you, and after that also open the floor to our audience. You mentioned at the start the different committees for ethical clearance. Is the committee other also the committee where you would focus on interdisciplinary research, or does it depend on, for example, if there are animals involved? If it is interdisciplinary, do you need to go to animal, or do you go to other? Oh, I think you're muted.
Yes. Oh, you're muted. Yeah, for others, basically, is if your research do not outside of the 5. So if it is multidisciplinary research, and if it is involve the human, so you just go to social humanities. And if the research also involve the animals, so you propose to ethical clearance from the social humanities and also from the animals. So others basically for research that not be covered in those 5 fields.
Okay, thank you. That's good to know. And other question, must all published results be co-authored? What about PhD student research?
Yeah, for the publications, the co-authors, I think it's also depends on the contributions of the Indonesian counterpart. But for the PhD students, yeah, we understand that for the what we call it, like a thesis, their final report, it has to be a single work, right? And so yeah, of course, you don't need the co-authors in the thesis. But if it's in publications in the journal, then yeah, you still can have the co-authors based on the contribution of the Indonesian counter.
Okay, thank you very much. Other topic, is there a minimum length of stay for the researchers to need to have a research permit? Does it matter if you stay only 1 week or 1 month or 1 year? Does it matter for the research permit, or do you always need the research permit?
Yeah, for now, our regulations do not differentiate the length of your stay or your research activities in Indonesia. So whether it's a short-term research or the long-term, you will go through the same process, because now we apply the research permit given once the ethical clearance is approved. So yeah, we do not differentiate the length of the research activities.
Okay, thank you, clear. And you already mentioned something in your presentation about who exactly needs the research permit. So, for example, as a lecturer, if you travel, or researcher, if you travel with your students and your students do research, for example, for a bachelor course, do they also need a research permit? And what about the supervisor that's not traveling, but has in the country of origin access to the research data?
Yeah, the research permit, of course, if you are coming to Indonesia, you need the research permit to do your field work. For those who are not coming to Indonesia, but then they got access to the data, or they will have opportunity to analyze the data, then it means that they involved in the research activities. So that's why the regulation also apply to this situation for the one who not coming, but they got access to the data and they analyze the data. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think that's important to know. And you mentioned also in your presentation the time it takes for the application process. I received some questions about it, that people think it takes longer, about 3 to 4 months. How strict are these 20 working days? And is it both when ethical clearance applies and when ethical clearance is not applicable? Is it both 20 days, or what is the experience?
Yeah. If the research need the ethical clearance, of course, it will need more time. I mean, it need longer time for the process to getting the permit, because there will be a time to the ethics committee to review the proposal, and because they meet every 2 weeks. So yeah, if I calculate, it's around 20 working days if the research have to go to the ethics committees. But for the proposal who are in the box of others, it means that they do not need to be reviewed by the ethics commissions. Then they need a shorter time to get the permit. It's around 7 to 8 working days.
Okay, thank you. That's important information, I think, for the researchers that are going to apply. What is one of the requests that you have is when the researcher is in Indonesia, they will also hand in a report, in between reports, and also before they leave the country. Is it also possible to send in the report after they already left the country, or is it really mandatory before exiting the country that you hand in the results?
Yeah, for the report, we asked for twice. So the midterm report and the final report. So the final report, basically, if you very happy and you can finish all the report prior to, come back to your home country, it will be wonderful. But if not, you still need a time to analyze the data, and you still need a time to write a good report, then it's okay. You can send it to us once you finish it. I mean, if you come back first and then you write in your home countries and then you send it later, it's okay for us too.
Okay, thank you. And is there then a maximum period connected to it, that it should be handed in when you are back in your home country? Like, for example, within 6 months after return, or there's no fixed date?
There is no fixed date. So once you have it, you just send it to us.
Okay, thank you. One more question, Ms. Sundari, before we go to the audience. The ethical clearance procedure, are there also proposals that are rejected by the ethical clearance procedure? And can you also give examples of what type of proposals have been rejected in the past?
Yeah, we have some record of the proposal rejected, but mostly it's not because of the substance or substance of the research, but it's more about, for example, they submit to us once they already finished the fieldwork, so it's very unethical for the ethics committee to give the approval for their proposal when they already finish the field activities. So that's why we reject the proposal. Or another example, because we also receive proposals from high schools. We have collaborations with the Indonesian Ministry of Education and Culture, and they have a kind of scientific program for the students in high school. And we understand that the topics of the research is excellence, but the ethics commissions have considerations that that kind of topic of research cannot be conducted by students in high school. For example, if the research is about a clinical trial, they don't have that kind of knowledge or skill to do the clinical trial. That's why we rejected the proposal. Or the students would like to have a research on mental illness to their peers. So of course, the ethics committee will not allow these students to do that kind of research within that peer. So that's why we reject the proposal. So basically, that's the example of the proposal that was rejected. If there is a proposal that not provide a complete or complete or detailed instrument, then the committee will ask them to revise the instrument or add additional informations rather than they reject the proposals. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's good that at least there will be some communication with the committee in case they have doubts or want to have more information. Okay, thank you. I have some questions also from the audience. Also to audience, in case you want to ask a question yourself, please raise hand, and otherwise I will read it out loud. I have a question. Whenever I go to the website from BRIN and do the self-check, the system does not seem to work. When I fill in no, when asked whether I will work with psychotropics, for instance, the system then, after submitting the form, tells me that my research does relate to psychotropics, hazardous chemicals, compounds, nuclear and radioactive materials, which does not align with what I filled in. What's the issue here, or what am I doing wrong? I'm a researcher in the humanities working with archives.
Okay.
Very detailed question.
It's okay, no worries, because we also receive many questions on the technical problems. Maybe I will not be able to explain all in these occasions, but once you try and have difficulties, please do a screenshot on your screen and send it to our email. Then our our colleagues who work with the system will analyze it and will give the solution with that.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question. Maybe I misunderstood, but do I understand correctly that once a researcher has obtained the research permit and ethical clearance, one does not need to independently apply for a visa?
No, it's the different one. So basically the research permit is one of the requirement to apply for the research visa. So maybe it was when I explained visa and the limited stay permit. So in the past, it was the two different one. When you have a visa, uh, and after you come to Indonesia, and then you need to apply for the limited stay permit. But through the new regulations from the Minister of Law and Human Rights, the visa and the limited stay permit will be in once in visa. That's what I mean.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Other question regarding the research permit for Indonesian citizen who studies in one of the universities in the Netherlands and intended to do fieldwork for thesis, shall they follow the same procedure? What about the fee? Will it apply the same if one is also a university staff in Indonesia? What about the procedure? So a few
Okay,
questions.
it is for the Indonesians who will study, for example, in the Netherlands university, right? And when they do the field work for the thesis in Indonesia, if you are Indonesian and affiliated with the Indonesian Institute, then you don't need a permit. What you need is ethical clearance. So you only have need to have the ethical clearance, but not the research permit.
Okay, thank you. And what if you are university staff in Indonesia? What is then the procedure?
If university staff in Indonesia, is it does it doing a research in Indonesia or what? I mean, the Indonesians and they work in University of Indonesia, right? So they only need the ethical clearance. They don't need the research permit.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Check the time. We still have time for a few questions. Here a question. SKJ can be issued at the provincial level. Are the police departments at provincial level already informed about this procedure if the new regulations have just been issued?
Yes, we already have coordinations with the police in Jakarta, Mabes Polri, and in the past, the SKJ it has to be issued in Mabes Polri, but because BRIN received so many questions and also the advice, especially for those who, the research location is not in Jakarta area, and also the Indonesian counterpart is not in Jakarta area. It's really, time consuming and financial consuming if they only go to Jakarta to, apply for the SKJ. That's why we had already coordination with the Polri in Jakarta, and they already informed the Polri, the police office in the provincial level. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And last question I have, all very good and practical. Is there going to be a Knowledge House BRIN NWO KNW initiative with funding for joint Indonesian Netherlands research or scientific program?
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. Currently, BRIN have similar program, matching fund or a joint fund with other could be research institute or funding agencies in other country to have like a joint initiative in certain area that are mutually beneficial for the parties. Yeah, it's very good. And I will pass these informations to my colleague, director of funding of research and innovation. That yeah, maybe through the embassy here, Ivor, you can have further talk with us in BRIN.
Yes, of course, would be very pleased to do so. Thank you for the invitation. And here I also get another question saying, I'm interested to collaborate with BRIN researcher for a joint research in public policy. Is there any platform or event that can facilitate such matchmaking between BRIN researchers and other researchers?
Yeah, I think with the Netherlands, we had, but it's only with a certain university. Yeah, even you attended that with Leiden. I think it's one of the example of matchmaking forum to give the opportunity of the Indonesian researchers and also the Dutch researchers to discuss and have collaborations. And in addition to that, I think we can have another approach like in BRIN website. There is a profile of the research organizations and also research center under each of the research organizations. So currently, BRIN have 12 research organizations, and each of the research organization they have several research center. And in our website, there is already informations about the head of the research center. I think there is also center that relate to the public policy. And I think you can just email the head of the research center. You give your interest, and I think they are more than happy to to have the collaborations with the Dutch community.
Yes, thank you for the suggestion, Ms. Sundari. I think really helpful and very much appreciated. Also, feel free to reach out to me or to the NL Knowledge House with questions, and we will try to accommodate as much as possible. I think then we are at the end of the session. Well, I want to thank you once again, Ms. Sundari, and also your colleague for joining today. I think it's wonderful we had the opportunity to discuss with you directly these important topics. And also thank you a lot to the audience for being here today, also for raising your questions and concerns. Well, this was a collaboration between the NL Knowledge House and the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. And of course with BRIN. And my feeling is that there might be more to be explored on this topic. So we are also open to your input and suggestions on how to proceed. Of course, what I mentioned before, this will also be provided in written documentation, and the recording will be shared with you. If you have ideas for follow-up, then please feel free to connect to us. And then for now, I just want to thank everybody, and also want to thank the NL Knowledge House for making this possible, this event, because without them, we would not have this great event. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good luck, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.